USC scored a bajillion points in the first half. Seemed like they were just going to kind of go the same route that Oregon did last week. And then Colorado basically controlled, I think, most of the second half and had an onside kick situation there to try to get a possession to tie the game. What was your main takeaway from this? Well, let me tell you mine because you were there and you have to talk.
Yeah, please do. I'm curious what you thought.
My main takeaway from this game is that USC is not a serious program because they can't take defense seriously.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
It's like they stink at defense. And if you look at their schedule, I think there's like a less than 10% chance they go undefeated this year.
Yeah. I think there's less than 30% chance they get through this thing with one loss.
It's the first time that Colorado's played in a game this year and been the less interesting storyline, in my opinion.
It's true.
Like, I think that Colorado did a really good job of weathering the storm, making sure they didn't get their doors blown off 2 weeks in a row. I think that they've proven that they are a gritty, fun team to watch without their best player, and Shiloh Sanders didn't play either. Am I right?
Yes. And there was another starter in the secondary. I got to be honest, I'm not sure who Deion was referencing as the third starter that was out, but they had missed Shiloh, they missed Travis. Cam Stillman-Craig was in there. I'm not sure he was referred to, but either way, Colorado is who Colorado is. I think we kind of know who they are. I mean, the schedule sort of revealed it. Like, they're going to score a bunch of points. They're extremely flawed. They can't protect. They can't really cover that well, but they have enough skill position talent that if you can't score, they're going to score on you. And if they're not playing in a really good defense, like, they're going to put up some points and they're going to scare some teams, but they're really flawed. And that's some really big flaws that they are not going to be able to outweigh. But USC's flaw is it's interesting. So I was sitting next to our USC writer, Antonio Morales, this today. And we were just kind of talking, and, he's watched USC a lot more closely than any of us, obviously. To watch him, second watch, all those things. And it's a lot of busts beget busts. And you kind of saw that today. They were really solid the first quarter and a half. And maybe even longer than that. Is that I'm watching them, I'm like, USC, they're tackling well. Their defensive game plan today was fantastic. They were playing really soft on the outsides. They were playing a lot of cover two, just saying, we're not going to give up the big play. And they knew that Colorado was not going to be able to protect Shedeur enough to be able to dink and dunk their way down the field. And that's why you saw a lot of comeback routes, because their offense is a post-snap read offense. That the receivers are going to have to read what the DBs are doing. And so they weren't going to take a lot of shots downfield because the corners are so soft that it's all comebackers. And if you throw an 8-yard comeback and they're tackling you, and then you got to do that 10 times, but you can't protect Shedeur, then you're getting behind the chains.
Eventually, it's not going to work.
Exactly. It was a great defensive game plan, but then they got a couple busts, and then they got a couple busts, and it looked like they got a little lazy when they got up 3 touchdowns, and it's we're back to where we are with USC, and we're back to where we were at Oklahoma. It's the same story.
And there's some thought process here in the chat. Craig Diaz said Lincoln Riley will never win a national championship, even if he fires Grinch. Matthew C is in the chat saying, I think we can say by now that Grinch isn't the problem. Riley just doesn't put a premium on defensive recruiting, especially on the lines. And, I don't know how much I buy all that. I'm sure that if he wanted to get a 5-star defensive tackle, that he'd be certainly all about the idea of that. But I don't know if it's a talent situation in Texas and California. His two main, talent grounds at Oklahoma and USC just not having dynamic defensive linemen in the state very often. Maybe that's just a dumb theory, but that's the theory that I've had.
They do have Bear Alexander playing for him. It's not like they got like 10 of them like Georgia seems to have, but like I scoff anytime anybody brings up talent with USC.
Well, I just don't understand why USC is in a position where it feels like getting a stop is hopeless for them. Like watching that game in the second half, if you were one of these poor souls who had USC minus 21 in this game, can't imagine.
Ari, are you one of those poor souls? I feel like you might have been.
It's like Colorado just like ran the game for 2 full quarters.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, Maybe that was just USC with their heads up their ass because they were winning by 100 in the first half and weren't trying that hard anymore. It's like, even if that's the answer, that's just unacceptable. So, I watch USC and I see Caleb Williams doing the things that he's doing. I see the offensive talent that he has, and I just feel like it's being wasted. I feel like we don't know it yet. We don't know what game it's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be next weekend or the weekend after or the weekend after that. But eventually, this team is going to lose, and it is going to lose because they give up 50 points to somebody. It might be UCLA this year. It might be Arizona. It might be anybody.
It could literally be anybody.
It's literally going to happen.
Yes.
And it is such an uncomfortable feeling because their fans know it too.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times, and maybe the answer is every year Lincoln Riley's going to have one of the 3 best quarterbacks in college football. That seems to be the run that he's on right now, going back to Oklahoma. Every year, their team has a distinct quarterback advantage. But I can't shake the thought process. But even with Baker and Kyler and Jalen, that this is the biggest waste, potentially, of talent at the quarterback position. I don't know. Drake May. We'll see what happens at North Carolina. I mean, there have been teams.
Johnny football, Ari?
Yeah, we've seen. I don't know how the hyperbolic sentence I was going to go there. I caught myself, but
okay.
I'm also think it's in the realm of just like truly remarkable, unbelievable, inexcusable, and disgusting. Like, I think that's all true. And I don't know what has to change. I don't know if you think it's the coordinator, the recruiting results, the talent areas in which you recruit, anything. It's a freaking disaster, dude.
Well, it's not even as bad on the field, Ari. It's that Lincoln doesn't seem nearly as panicked he doesn't seem like he's taking this as seriously as the fan base is, as everybody who's watching this team is. He's saying, hey, I feel like things are, okay. Obviously you want to be better, but he's got full confidence in Alex Grinch, all these things. And I think there's a way to diplomatically say, like, this isn't good enough without throwing your assistants, without throwing your players under the bus, all those things. And I was talking to Antonio today and I'm like, do you know how hard it is to be sitting here in year 2 with an undefeated team that played for a Pac-12 title the year before? You're undefeated. You have a returning Heisman Trophy winner. You are in the top 5. And your fan base is livid and about ready to revolt. That's hard to do. That's hard to do. Because on paper, you should be feeling pretty good. But then here in the real world,
you know why, David?
Where people know it's coming. They know it's coming.
A wise man once told me, it all comes back around in the morning. It does. I don't know, Wolf of Wall Street lines on this, but the chickens are going to come home to roost.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And you know it. We've seen it. We saw it last year. And hey, they got pretty close to getting away with it last year.
Well, and Ari,
this is a different conference now, though, bud.
Well, it is. And the thing is Caleb has to be great to win almost every game. And they're going to play teams later this year where he could be great and they could still lose.
Yeah, because the other team has also really good quarterback talent.
Yeah.
And great skill. Can you put this up here, Cam? Sooner Magic said this is all happening was at OSU and you guys didn't, or OAU, and you guys didn't care.
I mean, they did win the Big 12 like 6 years in a row. So but I don't think they're going to win the Pac-12 this year.
I think we were very definitively on board of they're a fun team with a great offense, but they're never going to win a national championship. I don't ever think anybody ignored.
No.
If you saw them play LSU in 2019 and didn't to have a takeaway from that, then I don't know what we're doing. But this isn't
that felt like bullying.
I don't think that it took him to go to USC for us to know that his defense has stunk. And there were a few years at OU where his defenses were actually passable. So, there is hope there that, because the saddest thing about this, then we'll move on. It doesn't even need to be elite, David. It just needs to be serviceable.
Top 65, top 75 in defensive yards per play, and you're a playoff team.
Mm-hmm. But no, they'll get into this weird game with USC where I will say this about the Pac-12 that just don't seem to be true about other conferences. And maybe this is last year's Pac-12. But the amount of games in the Pac-12 that I watch where receivers are open by 10 yards in every direction happens way more frequently than any other conference that I watch. And I don't know if that's just a style thing or if that's just in my head or if I'm just wrong.
Talent scheme.
But there are more breakdowns in the Pac-12 where people are inexplicably wide open on every play, where it's just like a 20-yard gain every play because you throw it to the middle of the field and the guy could sit down and light a fire with 2 sticks and then get back up and run again before somebody comes anywhere near him. Happens quite frequently, and I feel like the USC UCLA game is the illustration of that notion. And I know what's coming. I know it's coming, and it's a damn shame because Caleb Williams, we're all blessed to be able to watch him play football this year, and it's a shame it won't be in January in the playoff. I'm out on them, and I'm going to write Andy a $1,000 check because I was wrong.